Okay, let's start with your full name.
Teresa Walton Cannon.
Your current school.
My current school is Central Elementary High School in Talbot, Georgia.
Degree major.
I have a bachelor's in accounting from Arkansas State University. I have a master's in secondary education from Grand Canyon University. I have an educational specialist in leadership from Columbus State University.
All right, what subject do you teach?
I teach 7th and 8th grade math.
What made you become a teacher?
My love for education came from the passion of learning for my own children. I had a daughter, my middle daughter as a matter of fact, was in middle school but was taking high school courses. Her teacher felt like that she was not engaged in school. She was always off task. But the true light of it is that she was bored. So she would come to class, she would sleep in class, and she wouldn't participate. My daughter had one of the highest scores for Georgia State testing in her middle school in her county. So what had to happen is I had to get involved, because not only my child, I knew that there had to be other students out there that were embracing or being faced with those same kinds of dilemmas with educators that were not bringing them to their full potential. That started my career in Jefferson County, Georgia.
How many students are in your class?
My class size ranges from 12 to 17 students.
So from a full day perspective, how many students would you say you encounter all day long?
In a full school class day, I encounter between 70 and 80 students per day.
Okay, so you're responsible for 70 to 80 kids per day.
How long is your class?
My class ranges from 45, 50 minutes.
All right, so when the kid get in first part of the day, first 15 minutes of class, what's your course study like?
The first 15 minutes of class begins with me greeting my students at the door. Once my students come in and they have a seat, we have a ritual every day. We have a question of the day. They're given a certain amount of time to complete the question of the day. Once this question of the day is completed, then we're going to discuss it. We're going to clear up any misconceptions or any errors that they have experienced as they were completing their question of the day, and then we're able to go into our work session. I have taught in public school, I've taught at a technical college, and I've taught at a career college.
You said 17 years?
17 years in public school.
What drives you to get up every morning and keep coming?
My drive is knowing that my students are going to be here, and they're expecting to see me. Their expectation is to learn. The expectation is to learn from me. So when I hit the floor in the morning, my first thought is, what is it that I'm going to bring to the classroom today? How am I going to engage my students? How am I going to make them feel like they are a part of the learning? How am I going to establish that this learning is for them?
How do you get ready for the first day of school?
My philosophy is that I stay ready so that I don't have to get ready. If you look around my classroom, you'll see that I have positive affirmations. I love myself. I am unique. I believe in myself. I am important. I also have specialized quotes from different mathematicians or just general people. One child, one teacher, one book, one pencil. Will change the world. And that's what it's all about in education. How can I change the world? How I can change the world begins with children, because the children are actually our future. And if I don't invest in them and stay ready and not have to get ready, then I have done my part. Okay.
All right, so once your student, if you give a written assignment, once your student hand it in, when you get to your desk or home or whatever, when you're going through homework, how can you visually tell who needs extra attention
But see,
versus?
this is what happens during the closing of my day, is when I assess what my students know. I do that through parking lots, through exit tickets, we even have a game where we call hot potato, where I throw out a Nerf ball, and whoever catches it, whatever the question is, they're prepared to answer. If they're not able to answer, they have a lifeline in my classroom. They know that they can go to a peer that will help them in understanding. And then I come back and I put that affirmation on whatever that peer has allowed, given them in their sense of what's going on with the standard. So even if the child has not learned anything that day, they still take away something. They take away from their peers, and then I reaffirm it with whatever the actual standard requires for them to know. Because I want to make sure that my children are understanding before I move into a work session. In the work session is the meat of it, where we actually dive into whatever the standard is, we dissect it, we work with it. Then at the end, the last 10 minutes or so, we go into our closing, where I assess what my students have learned today, or I assess what they thought they learned today, and I clear up any error analysis that have been established.
Do you think it's better to have a more solid relationship with the parent or the student?
I will say that it works differently for each individual parent or child. A lot of times I have formed excellent relationships with children, but it didn't extend beyond that child. So then I had to go in reversal mode and start establishing relationships with parents outside of the classroom, outside of the school. Because once they see you in the community, and I did not mention this, but the first 3 years that I came back to my alma mater to teach, I lived in Columbus. Since then, I've moved to the community. I actually live in the community that I work in, which has proven to be favorable for me because they see me every day. They see me outside the classroom. So not only do they know me in a professional standpoint, they know me in a personal aspect as well. And that works wonders.
Hold right there. All right, so you got your degree. You got everything you need. You certified to become a teacher. How many schools did you apply to, and how many stops did you make before you ended up here at Central?
Okay, when I first started teaching, I actually started in Jefferson County, and I taught, all of my schools I've taught in have been in Georgia except for one. I taught in South Carolina for 1 year. But in that 1 year of teaching in South Carolina, I decided I wanted to come back to Georgia. I wanted to come back home. And so I made the move from Augusta, Georgia to Columbus, Georgia. And I taught here. The first 3 years of me teaching here, I lived in Columbus. But let me back up to say, I applied to 2 schools. My heart was in coming to Central Talbot because this is my alma mater. And I know that what was poured into me here, and I wanted to pay it forward. I wanted to give back to where I got my steering from. I know that they taught me everything that I needed to know educationally, but they also taught me character. They also taught me how to help others. And that's what I want to give back, and that's what I've been doing the past 7 years. I've been pouring back into my students what was poured into me. Central of Tarleton is my home, and this is where I wanted to be, and this is where I landed in, and this is where I plan to finish my career in.
Perfect.
What are some things you think Central may improve on moving forward?
Moving forward, I think that technology won, because we are living in an era where technology is everything. And I think that our students need to be prepared to move out into the real world, for it not to be a culture shock for them. I want them to have a smooth transition from the classroom to the workforce, to college, to whatever they choose to do in life. The resources that we need in this community to advance our children there is going to not only have to come from the school, but it's going to have to come from the community as well. When I was in high school, we had programs to work in the community. It's near impossible now. But how do you prepare children for the real world when they're not exposed to the real world? So we need resources in the school and in the community to make sure that our students become productive members of society, and they're in a position to make sure that the students that come behind them will be as well.
All right, so with that being said, what would you say is the biggest or the biggest challenge with just?
The biggest challenge to me is, one, that we live in a small community. Two, we live in a rural community that does not have the basic necessities that other students are allotted that live in Columbus or Atlanta. And because our children do not have those resources and they're not being exposed to them, then it feels like we're set back. We're set back. So any resources, any exposure that our children can receive from businesses, from people in the community, from state senators, because if our children don't see those people in those positions and understand that they can achieve those things too, then we fail them. And in education, it's not about failing students, it's about seeing them succeed. So I want our children to be successful, and with that, not only does it happen in the school system, it happens in the community as well.
Perfect.
And I won't say mother figure, but as a figure that they look up to, and they always want to please. Whereas girls, they see me as who they are. And so you don't get that same level of respect that you get from the boys. So, the boys are more attentive, and they're more in a position where they want to try whatever you tell them to do. If I tell them to stand on their head and spin, they're gonna stand on their head and spin. The girl is gonna be like, I'm not messing up my hair. I ain't about to do that, Miss Cannon, but that's just what it is. But the thing is, with girls, when you develop that relationship with them, they will do just about anything that you ask them to do. And I have got to say that has happened in Talbot County for me. My children have been the best. They have been the light of my life. And they don't even know it. I've had children text me from unknown numbers and write paragraphs, and I'm like, who is this? And at the end, when I see their name, it brings tears to my eyes, because I thought that I didn't get through to them. Every time I think it's time to leave education, I always get that confirmation that it's time to stay and do more. And I'm thankful for that. I'm very thankful for that.
Hold it.
What's the process of becoming a teacher?
Let me just share my process of becoming a teacher, because I didn't enter the traditional way. I entered through the Teacher Alternative Preparation Program, because my background is in accounting, but I've always loved math. And I knew that with the situation that my daughter went through, that I didn't want to see another child go through that. I wanted to make sure that I was that educator that thought outside of the box. If it required me to do more to help children, I did that. So my pathway was, I had a bachelor's in accounting, which allowed me to be able to teach math from 4th to 8th grade math. And then I went back and I got my endorsement, so now actually I can teach K through 8. But my bachelor's degree, I have a master's in secondary education, and then I went back and got my specialist in leadership in education. And that all prepared me to be able to teach. Teaching is a calling. If you are in teaching for a paycheck, it's not your calling. You have to have a passion for students. You have to have a passion for learning, and that comes with being a lifelong learner. You don't learn math and stop right there. You have got so much more learning to do. even in 17 years of teaching, I'm still learning. And it will continue to be a continuous process for me, because I have a passion for what I do, and I want to make sure that I'm giving children everything that I have to give to them for them to be as successful as I've been. You have anywhere from 7 to 8 units that you have to cover throughout the year. But your lesson plan is based upon the standards that the state has outlined, but you determine how you're going to teach it.
Alright, I get you. Alright, so you're saying it could be restrictions on your personal lesson plan, basically.
Not so much as restrictions, but they give you a guideline as to what has to be taught.
Alright, so is that something you can go into, or how do you personally pick what you want to cover in your classroom?
Actually, the units are already outlined, and it tells you what you need to teach within that unit. But what I do, based upon the students that I have, I look at the standard, and then I said, okay, this activity or this lesson will get them engaged, and I will find out actually what they know, what they don't know, and then I know how to pull it all together by the end of the unit to make sure that I've covered every standard and that students have assessed and they have shown everything that they know about that unit. Now, right now where we're in Unit 8, where it's show what you've learned all year. So my children are doing crossword puzzles, they are doing projects, they are doing raps. However they decide that they want to distribute the information, they get to do it in their own way. Because all year I have facilitated and chosen how they will learn. But when we get to Unit 8, they get to decide how they want to disseminate the information. So they may choose to do a dance, they may choose to do a rap, they may choose to do whatever they choose to do. Whatever it takes to get them involved, I allow them that freedom to do so.
So you're basically, you have fun educational methods.
Exactly.
Basically. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. And
It's not just sitting there reading from a book. It's not that. We use technology, and it's not just getting on an app. That technology is directly aligned with their learning. They may go shopping at a grocery store. It saved our listeners about unit rate. They may go grocery shopping online. They know how much money they gotta spend. They know how many units they have to buy. That's what we do, because this is the world that we live in. You can't restrain children to paper and pencil and writing. That's not how it's designed anymore. It's designed through different projects, different ways of learning, because all children learn differently. They learn differently. That book, that reading from that book and copying from that book, that's not it anymore. It's not it.
that's right.
The children are working together in groups. They're coming up with their own ideas of how they want to produce their lesson. However they want to produce it, as long as it does not inflict anything negative on anyone else, they're allowed to do that. They do calendars. I wish I could look all of it. I have one student that learns through drawing. So if that student is having a day, I allow them to draw. We do calendars where students get to show everything that they've learned through the year. They choose their month, they choose their theme, they choose their problems, and they share it with everybody. This is a big project that they love to do. And if they want to do it, I let them do it at the end of the year. I had one class that loved to dance. They love to dance, they love the rap, whatever they love to do, they were allowed to do it. during Unit 8. But these are just some of, and some of our children are so artistic. They are so creative. You know, that's not me. I'm not a creative. I can tell you what I want, and I can tell them, and they can come up with it. And that's what they do. That's what they do. Creative.
Yeah, so class, right?
We're anywhere from 12 to 17.
12 to 17 kids. Let's say 10 of them are receiving your lesson and able to, you can tell that they're able to
And you know what they
understand it.
You know what they do? They get up from their group, or a student may get up from another group and come over to that student, because sometimes it takes them learning from their peers, and they have the autonomy to do that in this classroom. They can go to their peers and talk to them and get a greater understanding. I don't restrict them to, this is the way I said it, this is the way that you do it. That's not my style of teaching. My style of teaching is this: I allow them to converse with their peers, and then if I need to add or take away anything from it, I do that, because that allows them a flexible way of learning.
Perfect.
I'm Teresa Walton Cannon. I teach 7th and 8th grade math at Central Elementary.
You can't mess up.
Oh.
I'm always rolling. That's right.
Okay, my name is Teresa Walton Cannon. I teach 7th and 8th grade math at Central Elementary High School in Talbot, Georgia.